Hey DJs, I wanted to talk about some of the questions I see from DJs who are getting started in DJing. There's a lot of advanced trainings out there, and there's a lot of DJ groups that are filled with people with a ton of knowledge. Unfortunately, a lot of those DJ groups are also filled with people who just want to talk negatively and tear down other people, and especially other DJs. I wanted to provide a bit of an answer in a forum that is encouraging as well as informational. One of the questions I see most often from beginning DJs is, where do I get my music? Or how do I start building my music collection? I'll go as fast as I can on this, but in order to really understand how and why we get music the ways that we do, you have to understand some of the history of how we used to get music and why we do the things we do. Those of you who are starting DJing right now in the 2020s have it a lot easier than Gen X DJs who started out carrying crates, physical crates of physical vinyl record albums that they had to pull out and put on the turntables. Those of us who started as millennial DJs started with CDs, so we still had physical media. Those of you in the 2020s, you don't have any physical media, so that's great for you because you only have digital copies and your equipment is a lot smaller and lighter and better quality than anything that we had to deal with 20 years ago or 15 years ago or even 10 years ago. You have a lot of options. Unfortunately, what makes it difficult for you is you have a lot of options, and for you, music has never been physical. It's always been digital. It's always been streaming. For me, music started out as something that was physical. I had to buy the CD from a store, and then I would take that CD, put it into my computer's CD drive. I would rip that CD to my computer, and then I would have all the 12 to 15 to 20 tracks of music in MP3 format. My music started out as a physical commodity, and then I would have to transition it into digital. And sometimes I would buy a full album of music to get the one song that I really wanted, the one that was playing on the radio. This is how I started collecting my music. I bought CDs, and I have a whole storage room full of boxes full of CDs to prove that I probably spent a heck of a lot more money trying to get those single tracks than I really had to. Those of you who are DJing now have this a lot easier. You have the ability to go out and get a single track instead of having to buy a full album to get that one track. Now this is where things got a little tricky for us who had to buy the albums. Most of the time when a song is played on the radio, it's not the same version that's the song that's played on the CD. There may be explicit lyrics on the album. There might be a long intro or an outro. Something that was really popular in the 90s and 2000s is people put skits throughout and sometimes tacked to the beginning or the end of their tracks. If I was playing that in an event, I would have to make sure I mixed out of the song or I cut the song or I started it later, and it could have been a really big hassle, especially if I was playing it straight off the CD. For those who were working in radio, they had access to something called a pool or an album pool or a record pool. This was essentially something that the record labels would give to working DJs who could prove they were working in the industry. And it was kind of a deal with the record label. Well, they would send them pre-release tracks. The radio stations got this so they could play it in advance to people and get them kind of hyped for the song that was going to come out on the album. A lot of those tracks, though, were radio edits of the song that was on the album. Sometimes it would be the exact same and you'd be fine. But other times there was either lyrical content that wasn't the same, or it would be a completely different version altogether. I remember buying the Black Eyed Peas Elephunk album, had a ton of hits that were hitting the radio. I wanted the song Let's Get It Started. Turns out that's not the song that's on the album. I did not get the version of the song that I wanted to play, and I didn't even get the version of the song that people knew and wanted to hear. Once everything became digital, things got a little easier. If I wanted a hit song or just one song off of an album, I could go to the Google Play Store or iTunes or Amazon MP3 and I can download that directly from them. There were a lot of people who went to things like LimeWire or Napster and they downloaded MP3s illegally. It wasn't always the greatest quality, and you wouldn't really know it was greatest quality until you played it through headphones or through big speakers. Then you really found out that that quality wasn't that good. The only way you could get the best quality was to download directly from an iTunes or an Amazon MP3 or buy the CD and still rip it to your computer so you could have it in a 320 bit rate. Anything more than 160 bit rate that would play better and sound better through speakers and headphones. The problem remained that most of the time you were still getting the album version of the song and not the radio version of the song that people knew. And sometimes that radio version of the song, even if you could get it, wouldn't play that well when you were mixing it with other songs because the lyric might start right at the beginning, and so you weren't able to mix very well with it. One of the things that was most helpful for me when I was building my catalog of music to play at events, songs that people wanted, I looked for compilation CDs, and I bought a lot of compilation CDs off of Amazon. The Now That's Music series of albums was a great jumping off point for me to build a catalog of radio hits across genres. Unfortunately, the Now albums weren't always in front of the curve of radio. Often they were 3 to 6 months behind, but there were times that I got hits from those Now That's What I Call Music albums before they hit the radio station. It was in their Now What's Next section. It hadn't hit radio yet, so by the time it hit radio and people started requesting it, thankfully I already had the song and I didn't have to wait for the next Now That's What I Call Music album to come out to buy the clean radio version of that. That's where the Now albums were great. They only had radio versions. They didn't have album versions, and they were all clean. Now That's What I Call Music also had a lot of other collaboration combination albums. Now That's What I Call Country. Now That's What I Call Club Hits. Now That's What I Call Love Songs. Now That's What I Call Wedding Songs. That's a great resource if you really are building and maybe you didn't have the option to go out and buy all the MP3s individually, or you didn't know what to buy. Buying those Now That's What I Call Music albums is a great option, and it's still a great option. All that said, there is a better option for working DJs, and no, it's not YouTube or Spotify. Downloading off of YouTube or pirating a song off of a torrent or ripping it off of Spotify or whatever you do, that's illegal. You will never be an actual working DJ if you don't work ethically. You'll get by, people probably won't know the difference, but you're doing something illegal. Those songs are not licensed for you to play as a DJ. If the venue were to get called out for playing music that wasn't licensed properly, they could throw you under the bus and there could be a legal battle. It's better just to not mess with copyright, especially when you're dealing with copyrighted materials. You don't have the right to take any of that for free. I'm sorry, it's true. Any DJ who plays off of YouTube, not a real DJ. Don't rip music off YouTube. Don't download music illegally. You don't have to do that. And there's better ways to get the tracks that you want. Some DJ software allow you to stream from premium services. Spotify, not so much, but there are things out there like Tidal or BeatSource. Stream through your software and play it as if you have the track saved to your computer. I don't stream songs at all. I'm in an area where a lot of the venues I go to, they might have internet, but it's not reliable. And there's some venues I go to that don't even have reliable cell service, so me using my cell phone as a hotspot, still not that reliable to stream music, and I just don't trust it. I've worked in technology my whole life, which means I have a healthy fear and a healthy distrust of technology. I don't expect streaming to work, but a lot of these services have gotten a heck of a lot better, especially in the 2020s, where you can go and download or cache that file to your software so you don't have to live stream it as you're playing at an event. If you don't have the songs and you subscribe to one of these services, that's going to be probably your fastest and easiest way to build a collection of music without taking up hard drive space. That's not how I do it. I want to talk to you about how I started building my music collection when I finally figured out the best way DJs can do this. When I worked on the periphery of radio with my own hobby station, I found that there were these things called record pools that radio DJs would be able to get pre-release music before it was released to the public. Very expensive. Most of the stations would pay for them. The commercial DJs who were also gigging DJs would have these pre-release tracks and they would play them live. I had a service for a while that got me some pre-release tracks. Didn't go well because I would play these tracks that weren't yet getting played on the radio. If they don't know the song, it's not going to go well. I played LMFAO Party Rock Anthem, No One Danced, because I played them the month before they hit mainstream radio, the month before they hit the top of the charts. A month after, absolutely filled the dance floor. Pre-release tracks don't always land. Sometimes they do. And sometimes those pre-release tracks don't hit it really big on the radio, so people still don't know it. The record pool idea, record store idea is still very prevalent, and that's how most working DJs still get their music. It just looks different. So instead of having a physical store where you go into and pick out all your albums, you have services like direct-to-music service, late night record pool, BPM Supreme, heavy hits, promo only. Many others have licenses, agreements with record labels so they can carry the MP3 tracks and allow their subscribers to download these tracks. Some of them have credits that you can download, some of them have unlimited, so you can download as many tracks as you want. And the great thing about these pools is a lot of them also have resident remixers or resident DJs that are making cuts for DJs to play that are only available on these record pools. Now, most most of these record pools, you have to prove that you are a working DJ, that you're a professional to join the record pool. That's something that record labels really want because they want to know that they're not giving away tracks to people who are not working professional DJs. For example, you can sign up for a pool like Heavy Hits, which is my personal favorite. I pay for an annual subscription, few $100s a year, but for that, I get unlimited downloads. And so if a new track comes out, I can pull up Heavy Hits. Most of the time, they already have this new track. And often, one of their resident remixers has already put out a track that might be mashed up with another track. It might be a transition edit, so it goes from a slow BPM to fast or vice versa. The thing that I typically go after are intro edits. In an intro edit is you have a radio version of a song, but they take a part of the song, it could be the intro, maybe it's a bridge, and they loop it 2, 3, 4 times for about 16 bars at the beginning of the song, and then they also loop it at the end of the song, which makes it really easy to mix in and mix out of, especially if you're a starting DJ and you're just getting used to mixing by BPM and making sure things match up. Having intros on your songs can really help you figure out your beat matching and getting that stuff together. The other versions of songs that I often end up downloading are quick edits. This is very similar to an intro-outro edit, but it's usually the intro, maybe your first verse and chorus, which, let's be honest, for most pop music, those are the parts that most people know. If you listen to the same song 100 times and you get interrupted 50 of those times, probably heard the first verse and first chorus 100 times, and you've heard the end verses and choruses 50 times or less. Quick edits are really great for those DJs who are mixing and also want to get through more tracks faster. If you have a 2-hour block of music, you can't fit a whole lot of songs in that if you're playing the full song. With quick edits, you don't have to think about mixing out of the song and mixing in another song, potentially having lyrics overlap or beats clash. You can focus on just playing the most popular part of that song, mixing out into another quick edit. So instead of a 4-minute long song, your songs become 2 minutes or 1.5 minutes. You can fit more songs in. All that to say, where do you get your music? You want to get your music from record pools. If you heard the term record pool and that makes no sense to you, BPM Supreme I find very accessible to most people. They have a lot of intro edits, they have a lot of quick edits, pretty good mix of open format and even a lot of Latin stuff. They actually have a whole Latin section. If you really want to get serious, DMS or Direct Music Service and Heavy Hits, two of my favorites, mainly because they have a lot of really awesome DJs who make edits for them and they're exclusive edits. DJ City is another one, has a lot of great edits on it. If you want to DJ with video, or maybe you just want everything, Extendamix, probably the best I've found for those really obscure tracks. They get all the music videos or lyric videos, they get them on their service so fast. I can't believe it. I was once asked to DJ an event and they wanted Italian music. So I asked them for some suggestions. They sent me a couple Spotify lists of a bunch of Italian music. Didn't recognize any of it. I went to Extendamix. They had almost everything. Late Night Record Pool, DMS, Heavy Hits, and BPM Supreme combined had about 3 of the tracks. Extendamix had about 70 of those tracks. Extendamix is my go-to pool for when I have a really niche event or I want to beef up my music video library, because Extendamix is videos, but most pieces of software, in fact, probably all the big DJ software, I use Serato, for example, allows me to play the video track as a music track. It still gives me the waveform. I can still mix it. I can put cue points, do everything I can with the music track, but it's video. So if I have the Serato video plugin like I do, I can put that up on a screen or a projector if I want to play the video. Most of the time, I'm not playing video, but Extendamix has the tracks that I couldn't find elsewhere. And they also have some remixes and intro edits and stuff for you too. So if you're just getting started and you're wondering where to get your music from, either sign up for a streaming service like Tidal if you're really not sure what genre you're going to get into or to what niche. If you're an open format DJ, you're going to want to look at one of these DJ pools. You can get a service like Crate Hackers, which is a service that essentially curates playlists from DJs all over the country, different genres. They come up with these playlists and they make them mixable, typically in BPM and by key. I've been mixing by key for more than a decade now. Once you start mixing by key, everything just starts sounding better together. If you're already mixing, you might be mixing in key and not even realizing it because you're just putting songs that sound good together. Chances are they're probably in compatible keys. You don't have to know anything about mixing in key to get started mixing in key. A service like Crate Hackers is great because you have these curated playlists that are in mixable order. They break them down by the genre. So if you want a country crate, which is how we organize songs in most DJ softwares, they're called a crate. It's basically just a folder of music. So you can pull a country dance crate and see a dance playlist that might have worked for another DJ, a DJ that plays country most of the time, put that together and said, this is what works with my crowd. So now I have a couple of country dance playlists that I pulled from one of these DJs in a genre that I'm not familiar with. Latin playlists. I've gotten a lot more Latin music than I did before I was in Crate Hackers. I just didn't know what to get. And I would be at an event and someone would request Latin music, pull up a couple of the songs that I had. That's not the ones that they wanted. Now I have some lists from DJs who specialize in these genres who are telling me this is what hits with my crowds. So this is probably what's going to hit with your crowds. Crate Hackers is a great way to get started building a lot of these playlists and crates, but you can't really use Crate Hackers if you don't have the music to fill it. What I recommend to people who are signing up for Crate Hackers is to sign up to Crate Hackers to get the playlist, get some ideas of what you can play, then look at some of the record pools that Crate Hackers partners with, sign up for one of them, and even if they don't partner with them, BPM Supreme, for example, doesn't partner with Crate Hackers, but you can look at Crate Hackers, see what songs are working in this playlist that you want. Then you can go to BPM Supreme, download those tracks, build your playlist using the Crate Hackers software, which makes it super easy to build the playlist. This is a great way to get started building your music library and making sure that you're getting tracks that land with those crowds and those certain genres. If you're just getting started as a DJ and you want to be an open format DJ, you want to go out there and play for different crowds, I highly recommend sign up for Crate Hackers, get an idea of the songs that you want, and then figure out what record pool you want. Record pools are going to have different selections of music because of the different licensing agreements with various different record labels. If you sign up for Crate Hackers and then you sign up for Heavy Hits, you can build most, if not all, of certain crates, certain playlists, and so you have a lot of the songs available. You might not have a song here or there if it's one that you really, really need that no pools have, because maybe it's a Justin Timberlake song, but he's on a label that doesn't like their music to be put on any of these record pools. Then you can go out to Amazon MP3, download it directly, or iTunes, download that track directly. And then you have that one track that you really know that people are going to like, but you couldn't find on these pools. That's okay. Crate Hackers is a great source for building, especially if you're open format or you want to play different genres. But to use Crate Hackers effectively, you have to have your music. Where do you get your music? You get it from a record pool. Check out some of the record pools. Even if you do a month, you can sign up for 1 month at a time, maybe jump from that one after 1 month, go to another one. Find what record pool speaks to you, has the best edits for you. If you don't want to do the record pool and you just want to do streaming, that's great. Sign up for a Tidal, Beat Source, but even Tidal and Beat Source might not have all the tracks that you want. And again, for me, I prefer downloading the tracks, having them on my computer. I have physical copies, the actual MP3 file of every song, and I own all my music. Any music that you've ripped off of YouTube or you've downloaded illegally, start replacing those with actual legal copies of the tracks and start figuring out what music goes together, put them into crates, build what you need. Realistically, you don't need 100 or 200,000 songs. I used to have a library of 200,000 songs. I have since cut that down to less than 50,000 songs, and that's still probably 30,000 more than I need, and probably 40,000 more than I play. You don't need a ton of music, but I think a lot of DJs go out there and they just buy every single song they want or download every single song that's out there. You don't need that. That's what Crate Hackers is good for. If you're getting started as a DJ, you can use Crate Hackers to see what are the popular tracks out there in these genres, and you get a great community of DJs along with it that are encouraging and helpful. All these things do cost extra. I'm not getting paid by any of these services, PS. Crate Hackers is not paying me to pitch them. I'm giving you what's worked for me. Heavy Hits, DJ Supreme, DMS, Extendamix, none of them are paying me to pitch their services. I'm only telling you what I found helpful. So I'm not getting a kickback. If you sign up for them, they're not going to say anything about me. If you tell them I sent you, they're going to say, Zhem who? I'm not giving you this to get something for myself. I'm giving you this because these are the questions I hear from beginner DJs all the time. One of the things they hit most often, even people in Crate Hackers when they sign up, hey, you're giving me the playlist, but where do I get my music? No one has told them that there's such a thing as a record pool out there. If you're a Gen Z DJ or even a younger millennial DJ, music to you was never a physical commodity. It was always a streaming, always a digital commodity. So it's difficult sometimes for those people who are younger to understand that music hasn't always been digital, it hasn't always been streaming, and the record pool is really still the best way to get music, to download it, to have a copy that is yours. Hope this helps. Happy DJing. See you on the other side.